Hi guys, welcome to Husslefreewealth. Everyone in fire community is fighting about one thing. Is 25x your annual expenses enough to retire? Or do you actually need 33x, 40x, or even more? Some people say that even 20x or 25x is fine. Uh, Others say that anything below 40x is reckless. The truth is, neither one is fully right for everyone. So, what is right for you? In this video, we'll see what these X numbers actually mean. Second, what global and Indian research really say about it. And third, the most important, the scenarios and questions that will help you decide your number. So when 25x is right and when even 40x is lesser. So what does this 25x, 40x, what does x really mean? If your annual expense today is 10 lakh, 20x means 2 crores and 40x means 4 crore. That's all x is. Annual expense multiplied by the multiple. Now that we have understood x, next is research. So where they started? It started with Benjamin's 4% rule. In 1990s, US planner William Benjamin tested decades of US stock and bond data. His question was, what percentage can a retiree withdraw so the money can last 30 years? The simple rule he found was withdraw 4% of your starting corpus in year one, increase that amount by inflation every year, and stay invested in a portfolio of stocks and bonds. In US history, this 4% rule usually survived a 30-year retirement period. So that's roughly 25x of your annual expenses. But what you need to remember is that this was US market data and only around 30-year retirement. So in a system where many retirees have social security as backup, if you copy paste that to India, that is risky. And after Benjamin, there were plenty of researches done, the Trinity study, and then there was this work done by Wade Pfau, Michael Finke, David Blanchett, and they tested different portfolios and withdrawal rates. The big takeaway from all of these research was that rigid fixed withdrawals work only under certain assumptions, and certain assumptions about asset allocation, returns, inflation, and how long you live. Now, this is very important and should be considered before following all these researches. In one US historical study, a portfolio with just 25% in stocks and 75% in bonds, it had only about a 42% success rate at a 4% withdrawal over 40 years. That's roughly a 58% chance of you running out of money. In addition, Wade Pfau, who earlier said that 4% rule is fine for 30 years, in 2018, he said that a 60% equity and a 40% debt portfolio failed half of the simulation researchers ran using forecasts of future rather than past returns. He also claimed that 3% is a safe withdrawal rate even for US. So all of this research is good for concept building, but one more important idea is the Guyton-Klinger approach. I found this really interesting. So instead of one safe withdrawal rate forever, they asked, what if retirees adjust spending based on markets? In simple terms, cut spending a bit when markets do badly, spend more when markets do well. Basically, adjust withdrawals instead of taking out a fixed percentage. Their research showed that flexible dynamic rules reduce failure rates even when the starting withdrawal rate is higher than 4% in some cases. Now, what is a failure? Failure here means you running out of money in your retirement. All this work, Benjamin, Trinity, Gutt, and Klinger, it is based on US data. But Indian return is a different game. We have higher and more uncertain inflation, different equity return patterns. There is a huge difference between the returns that we got from 1980 to 2000 versus 2000 to 2020. The returns were much higher earlier. In addition, we have very limited social security for most people. So using a US 4% rule or 25x rule blindly in India, that can give a false sense of safety. Now let's talk India specific. Two key works you should know, both of them involving Ravi Saraogi. Very interesting research. You guys should take a look. Uh, their names are Compounding the Safe Withdrawal Rate for a Retirement Portfolio in India. And second one is Balancing Acts, Safe Withdrawal Rates in the Indian Context. Across these and similar analysis, the message is similar. The classic US 4% rule is aggressive in Indian conditions. A safer band for many typical Indian retirees is around 3 to 3.5%. And that too depending on asset allocation and assumptions. If you convert these percentages to X, 3% withdrawal is 33X expenses, around 3.3% is 30x expenses. So 20x is usually risky and 40x is usually conservative. But these are still probabilities, not guarantees. And here is the key: your life may be very different from the average Indian in those papers. So if you want to see how different asset allocation have given returns in India, then you can watch the video where I studied 25 years of rolling returns for multiple asset allocations. Uh, I'll link that in the description. And before we go to the last section, the most important section of this video, one more important point: please use YouTube articles and research papers to learn, but do not blindly follow anyone, including me. If you run out of money at 70, no YouTuber or guru is going to fund your retirement. Please remember that. So please understand the concept, apply your own brain to your own life, and then decide your number. Now, to make that decision, answer these 5 questions honestly. So question one: can you actually cut expenses? Are you willing to reduce your expenses if you realize that your portfolio is not giving the anticipated returns? And more importantly, will you actually be able to reduce them if you don't have enough discretionary expenses built in? If your annual spending is 25 lakhs, maybe you can come down to 22 lakhs or even 20. But if you are in that 8 to 10 lakh range, most of your expenses are often fixed: rent, EMI, school fees, essentials. There may not be much to cut without real pain. So if you have genuine room and willingness to cut, 25x with flexibility might work. If not, you probably need closer to 35 to 40x. Second question is, are you okay going back to work? If markets crash early in retirement, are you mentally okay going back to work? Think mentally. Are you okay taking job, consulting, freelancing, or anything? Remember, this is more emotional than financial. If going back feels unacceptable, your starting corpus needs to be stronger. So if you do not want to go back to work, so 25x could be less for you. Question third: will you be employable? Even if you want to work, will the market still want you? Remember that. Skills get outdated, industries change, technologies change, age bias is real. If your plan B is I'll just earn later if needed, that assumption itself is risky. So keep that in mind. Next is income versus effort. Now, this one is very important for me. So even if you can earn, do not expect today's income for today's effort. The money you earn today for your effort, you may not get even half of that if you restart from zero after 10, 15 years. In your 50s or 60s, income might be lower, effort might be higher. Extra income is a buffer and should not be your main plan. If your plan heavily depends on high future income or towards higher X. Fifth question, and this can override everything: how bad is your job really? If it is killing your health, destroying family time, mentally unbearable, then yes, retiring early at something like 25x, but with flexibility, may be justified. But if it is tolerable and not ruining your life, rushing out at 25x to escape may be taking unnecessary risk. Working a few more years and aiming closer to 30 or 40x is better. A simple conservative approach that one can follow is having the corpus in multiples of how many years you will be in retirement life. So, for example, if someone who is 50 and they think they are going to live till 85, 35x is what they can plan for. Also, remember your X number is only as good as the expense you have actually planned for. There is another video on this channel where I go deep into 7 retirement expenses and risks that most people ignore. Risks like medical shocks, assisted living, lifestyle creep, and few more. Do watch that next so you don't underestimate what you'll really spend. Now, coming back to the video, hopefully you noticed that all 5 questions are about flexibility. So if you will and can be flexible, you can go with a smaller X. Otherwise, plan for the conservative approach that I talked about earlier. I hope you liked the video. It takes a lot of effort to make these videos. Please do not forget to subscribe and like the video. That helps the algorithm. And please talk to a qualified financial advisor before acting. This video is for education, not personalized advice. Have a blessed day ahead. Thank you.